Hello, everyone. Today you will learn interesting facts about the Middle Ages. Tonight, let us embark on an adventure, one that would have been both thrilling and terrifying in the Middle Ages. A journey. Forget speedy trains, bustling airports, or the comforting hum of a car engine. In this bygone era, travel was an arduous, dangerous, and time-consuming undertaking, and communication was a slow, deliberate art. Imagine a world where a journey of just 50 miles could take days, and news from a neighboring kingdom might take weeks to arrive, if it ever did, often warped by rumor along the way. Our story begins with the simple act of setting out, a decision not taken lightly. For most medieval people, especially the vast majority who were peasants bound to the land, travel beyond their village or local market town was a rare, perhaps even once in a lifetime event. Their world was often defined by the nearest church bell and the horizon of their fields. If they traveled, it was perhaps a pilgrimage to a nearby shrine, a forced movement for work to a new lord's land, or a desperate flight from famine or war. But for others, merchants eager to exchange goods, knights riding to war or to their lord's summons, devoted pilgrims seeking spiritual solace, wandering scholars yearning for knowledge in distant universities, and royal messengers bearing crucial dispatches. The open road, or what passed for it, was a constant companion. There were no paved highways as we know them, no smooth asphalt stretching into the distance. Roman roads, incredible feats of engineering from a forgotten empire, were crumbling and overgrown, their precise stonework long since plundered for other buildings. Most routes were little more than dirt tracks, barely wider than an ox cart, becoming treacherous bogs in the rain, choking dusty trails in the sun, and perpetually uneven, riddled with ruts and potholes. Imagine navigating these paths on foot, your boots sinking into mud, or perhaps jostling violently in a sturdy but slow ox-drawn cart, its wooden wheels creaking under the load. Even a knight on horseback, though faster and less susceptible to the mud, faced the same treacherous terrain, constantly alert for hidden roots or sudden dips. Bridges were rare and often rudimentary. Often, one had to ford rivers, relying on luck, a strong animal, and the mercy of the current to avoid being swept away. The constant creak of cart wheels, the rhythmic thud of hooves, the distant bark of a dog, or the lonely cry of a raven would be the only sounds accompanying a traveler for miles, emphasizing the vast silent stretches between human settlements. Dangers and discomforts of the road. Danger was a constant companion on the road. There were no organized police patrols as we understand them, no swift justice waiting around the bend. Bandits and outlaws lurked in dense forests, remote stretches, and mountain passes, preying on isolated travelers. A merchant caravan, though better protected, still presented a tempting target. Wild animals, from packs of hungry wolves to territorial bears, posed a genuine threat, especially after dusk, when the shadows lengthened and the world grew cold. Even navigating unfamiliar terrain was a significant risk. Without maps as we know them, those were incredibly rare, hand-drawn, and highly inaccurate, often focusing on landmarks rather than precise geography. Travelers relied on word-of-mouth directions, the position of the sun, the steady guidance of the stars, and the distant sight of a church spire or castle tower. Imagine the sheer courage, or perhaps desperation, it took to venture into the unknown, knowing that every shadow might hide a threat and every unexpected turn could lead you hopelessly astray into unforgiving wilderness. Pilgrims, in particular, often traveled in large groups for safety, their simple clothes and staffs a symbol of their unwavering faith, hoping it would offer divine protection against worldly perils. They would sing hymns and share stories to keep their spirits up, their collective presence a deterrent to robbers. Where to rest? Lodging on a journey. Lodging on a journey was a far cry from modern hotels, offering little comfort and often basic necessities. In larger towns, one might find a simple inn, often a single large common room shared by many travelers with straw filled mattresses laid out on the floor, and the ever present risk of fleas, bedbugs, and sharing space with unfamiliar faces. Food would be basic: a hearty, often greasy stew, coarse bread, and endless flagons of weak ale, which was safer to drink than often contaminated water. For those with more means, or traveling between castles, hospitality might be extended by a friendly lord or a wealthy abbot at a monastery. Monasteries, in particular, were vital way stations, offering shelter, food, and spiritual comfort to travelers as an act of Christian charity, deeply ingrained in their monastic vows. The guest houses of larger abbeys could be surprisingly comfortable, offering individual cells and better meals. For the common soldier or impoverished pilgrim, sleeping rough by the side of the road, huddling for warmth around a small fire, was a common reality, exposed to the elements and the unseen dangers of the night. Imagine the sheer relief of seeing the sturdy stone walls of an abbey or the welcoming light of an inn appear on the horizon after a long, grueling day of travel, promising a brief, precious respite from the harsh world outside. The art of communication, slow and deliberate. Communication, as you can guess, was glacially slow, a testament to patience. There were no telephones, no telegraphs, no internet, no instant news updates. News traveled primarily by word of mouth, spreading like ripples in a pond, gradually and unevenly. Merchants, returning from distant towns, brought tales of foreign lands, new fashions, and political developments. Pilgrims, having visited holy sites, shared stories of miracles and encounters. Wandering minstrels and bards, traveling from hall to hall, sang ballads of recent battles, royal weddings, or local scandals, often embellishing them greatly for entertainment and to hold their audience's attention. A king's edict might be read aloud in market squares by a town crier, but its true meaning could be interpreted differently in each village it reached. For official messages, such as royal decrees, declarations of war, diplomatic communiques, or crucial feudal summons, messengers were indispensable. These brave individuals would travel on horseback, sometimes for days or weeks, navigating the same treacherous roads. They often carried sealed letters, painstakingly written on parchment, but just as frequently, they relied entirely on their trained memory for oral messages, especially if the message was sensitive or coded. Imagine the immense pressure of remembering a precise message from a powerful king or lord, knowing any misspoken word or forgotten detail could lead to disastrous diplomatic consequences or even a lost battle. Their lives often depended on their ability to recall and recite accurately. Heralds played a specialized and highly respected role in formal communication. They were the emissaries of kings and great lords, instantly identifiable by their distinctive, richly embroidered tabards emblazoned with their lord's vibrant coat of arms. This unique attire granted them a degree of protection and diplomatic immunity, allowing them to travel safely even between warring factions to announce royal edicts, challenge opponents before battle, deliver peace treaties, or even declare war. They were living, breathing symbols of their lord's authority. But even with heralds, a vital message between, say, London and Rome, or even between two distant castles within the same kingdom, could take months to deliver, and months more for a reply to be received. This immense, inherent delay in information flow meant that rulers and commanders often had to make critical decisions based on outdated or incomplete information, leading to devastating miscommunications, missed opportunities, prolonged conflicts, or even the unwitting violation of agreements already made. Letters, though rare and costly, did exist as a more formal means of communication. They were primarily exchanged between the literate elite, kings, powerful nobles, high ranking bishops, and respected scholars. Scribes, often monks, would painstakingly pen messages on precious parchment using expensive ink and quills. The finished letter would then be carefully folded, sealed with hot wax, often impressed with a personal signet ring to authenticate the sender and protect against tampering, and entrusted to a reliable messenger who might be a loyal servant or a paid courier. Imagine the profound anticipation of receiving such a letter after weeks or months of anxious waiting its contents, a lifeline to a distant loved one, a crucial piece of political intelligence that could shift the balance of power or a fervent plea for assistance. These letters were not for idle chatter or everyday news. They were reserved for important news, vital instructions, legal matters, or deeply personal, heartfelt correspondence. The very act of writing and reading was a secret in itself for many, as literacy was a rare privilege, confined largely to the clergy and the highest echelons of society. The fragmented world and enduring connections, the slow pace of travel and communication meant that the medieval world was far more fragmented than anything we experience today. Local customs, regional laws, and even distinct dialects or languages could vary wildly from one region to the next, just a few days' journey away. People's worldviews were incredibly limited, shaped primarily by their immediate surroundings, their village, their manor, their local market, news of great events, a distant crusade, a new invention, like the eyeglasses, or the terrifying advance of a plague, would spread like ripples in a pond, gradually and unevenly, often distorted by rumor, fear, and misunderstanding before it reached remote communities. The concept of breaking news simply didn't exist. Information was always broken in the sense that it arrived late and often incomplete. Yet, this slowness also fostered a different, perhaps deeper, kind of human connection. People relied more intimately on their local communities, on face to face interactions, and on the rich oral traditions passed down through generations. Storytelling around the flickering hearth on a winter's night, the shared experiences of a long and arduous pilgrimage, the camaraderie forged within a merchant caravan, protecting each other on dangerous roads. These were the vital ways in which knowledge culture and personal bonds were shared in a more personal and intimate manner than our fast paced globalized world often allows. Every traveler became a bearer of news, a living newspaper, enriching the lives of those they met with tales from beyond the horizon. So, as you drift off, perhaps you can hear the faint jingle of a messenger's horse bell disappearing into the twilight, the distant weary call of a pilgrim's song echoing across a misty moor, and the quiet, almost reverent rustle of a precious long awaited letter being unsealed in a dimly lit hall. Imagine a world where distance was truly vast, where a journey was an epic undertaking, and where every piece of information, every message, every shared story was a carefully carried treasure, linking human lives across vast, unyielding landscapes. Good night.